Your car says everything about your decision-making skills. Some people drive smart investments. Others, they're rolling around in four-wheeled money pits that scream, "I make terrible choices." Today, we're exposing 20 cars that only the absolute dumbest people keep buying. These aren't just bad cars, they're financial disasters with license plates. Let's get into it. Number 20. Dodge Journey, 2009 to 2020. The Subprime Special. Remember when Dodge kept selling the Journey year after year while every other manufacturer moved on? There's a reason for that, and it's not a good one. This thing became the official vehicle of people who couldn't get approved for anything else. Dealerships loved the Journey because they could move them to customers with 520 credit scores and 18% interest rates. Under that outdated body sits a wheezy 2.4-liter four-cylinder making 173 horsepower, or if you're really unlucky, a 3.6-liter V6 with 283 horses that drinks gas like it's going out of style. This thing weighs 4,000 pounds, which means that four-cylinder is working harder than a one-legged man in a kicking contest. The interior looks like it was designed in 2008 and never updated, because it was. Hard plastics everywhere, a touchscreen system that was outdated when Obama was president, and build quality so poor the dashboard starts cracking before you finish making payments. Reliability? These things are famous for transmission failures around 60,000 miles, electrical problems that make the check engine light a permanent feature, and engine issues that cost more to fix than the whole vehicle is worth. The Journey wasn't transportation, it was predatory lending with wheels. If you bought one, the dealer saw you coming from 3 miles away. Number 19. Jeep Renegade, 2015 to present. The fake Jeep. Just because it says Jeep on the badge doesn't mean it can do Jeep things. The Renegade is what happens when Fiat builds a tiny crossover, slaps 7 slots on the front, and convinces people it's adventure-ready. This thing is built in Italy on a Fiat platform, which should tell you everything you need to know about reliability. The 1.4-liter turbocharged four-cylinder makes 160 horsepower and feels like it's constantly struggling to move the 3,200-pound body. Fuel economy is mediocre at 24 city, 32 highway, worse than many larger crossovers. The 9-speed automatic transmission is a disaster, jerking between gears like a teenager learning to drive stick. These transmissions fail so often that Jeep extended warranties and issued multiple technical service bulletins, which is corporate speak for, "We know it's broken, but we're selling it anyway." The interior rattles and squeaks from day one. Plastic trim pieces fall off if you sneeze, and the touchscreen freezes more often than a laptop running Windows Vista. Take this thing off-road like the commercials suggest? Good luck. The trail-rated badge is aspirational at best, wishful thinking at worst. Ground clearance is minimal, approach angles are weak, and the first time you hit something harder than a speed bump, you'll be calling a tow truck. The Renegade tricks people into thinking they're buying Jeep capability when they're really buying Fiat quality with an American markup. Number 18. Chevrolet Cruze, 2011 to 2019. The ticking time bomb. Chevy positioned the Cruze as their import fighter, the car that would take on Honda and Toyota. Instead, they built a grenade with a bow tie on the hood. This thing looks decent enough from the outside, modern styling that hasn't aged terribly, but pop that hood and you'll find nightmares. The 1.4-liter turbocharged four-cylinder makes 153 horsepower and comes with more problems than solutions. Turbochargers fail prematurely, coolant leaks develop everywhere, and the engine has a special talent for consuming coolant without any visible leaks. Where does it go? Nobody knows, but you'll be topping it off every week. The valve cover develops cracks and leaks oil all over the engine bay, creating a fire hazard and a mess. Water pumps fail around 50,000 miles, taking the timing belt with them and destroying the engine. That repair? $3,000 minimum, more than the car's worth after a few years. The Cruze also pioneered GM's tradition of transmissions that shudder and hesitate, especially the 6-speed automatic that feels like it's constantly debating which gear to choose. The interior is cheap Plastic City, with materials that scratch if you look at them wrong and electronics that stop working before the warranty expires. Number 17. Ford Fiesta with automatic transmission, 2011 to 2019. The lawsuit generator. Let's be clear right up front. The manual transmission Fiesta is actually a decent little car. But the automatic? That's a different story, a horror story. Ford decided to use a dual-clutch automatic transmission called PowerShift, and it became one of the biggest automotive disasters in American history. This transmission jerks, shudders, slips, and fails so catastrophically that Ford faced massive lawsuits and even criminal investigation. The 1.6-liter four-cylinder makes 120 horsepower, which would be adequate in a small car if the transmission actually transmitted that power to the wheels consistently. Instead, you get lurching at stoplights, hesitation when accelerating, and the constant feeling that something is desperately wrong because something is desperately wrong. Ford issued over a dozen technical service bulletins trying to fix the PowerShift with software updates, clutch replacements, and various band-aids. Nothing worked. These transmissions fail as early as 20,000 miles, and Ford's solution was often to replace the clutch packs, which would fail again in another 20,000. The repair costs $2,500 each time, and many owners went through 3 or 4 clutch replacements before giving up. Number 16. Ford Focus with automatic transmission, 2012 to 2018. PowerShift. Part 2. The Reckoning. Ford looked at the disaster they created with the Fiesta PowerShift and thought, you know what? Let's put that same transmission in our best-selling compact car. The result was predictable, complete disaster on a larger scale. The Focus outsold the Fiesta by huge margins, which meant Ford inflicted their faulty transmission on even more unsuspecting customers. Everything wrong with the Fiesta automatic applies here, except worse because the Focus is heavier and puts more stress on the already fragile dual-clutch system. The 2.0-liter four-cylinder makes 160 horsepower, adequate power that gets completely ruined by a transmission that can't decide if it wants to be in gear or having an existential crisis. These things shudder at low speed so badly that passengers think something's broken. And they're right. The transmission slips under acceleration, hesitates when you need power, and fails completely well before 100,000 miles. Ford knew about these problems from the beginning. Internal documents showed engineers raised concerns before the cars even went on sale, but management pushed forward anyway because deadlines and profits mattered more than customers. The lawsuits piled up faster than the repair bills. Ford eventually settled multiple class actions for hundreds of millions of dollars, extended warranties, and offered buybacks. Number 15. Nissan Altima, 2013 to 2018. The Internet Legend. The Nissan Altima has achieved legendary status online, and not for good reasons. This car has become the unofficial vehicle of questionable life choices, expired temporary tags, and drivers with suspended licenses. But beyond the memes, there's real mechanical disaster hiding under that bland exterior. Nissan's CVT transmission is the stuff of nightmares, failing so consistently that extended warranties and class action lawsuits couldn't keep up with the complaints. These transmissions whine, shudder, and give up completely anywhere from 60,000 to 100,000 miles. The replacement cost? $4,000 to $5,000, which is often more than the car's worth. Nissan issued extended warranties covering CVTs up to 120,000 miles, which tells you everything about how bad the problem is. The 2.5-liter four-cylinder makes 182 horsepower and is the least problematic part of these cars, which isn't saying much. The interior is cheap plastic fantastic with materials that feel hollow and brittle. But the real Altima problem is the type of owner it attracts. These cars are sold cheap to subprime buyers who can't afford maintenance, so they run them into the ground. Before we continue exposing these automotive disasters, do me a favor. Smash that like button if you're enjoying this, drop a comment telling me which of these cars you've had the misfortune of owning, hit subscribe so you never miss our videos, and click that notification bell so you're first to know when we drop new content. Trust me, we've got plenty more terrible cars to talk about. Now let's get back to the countdown. Number 14, Nissan Sentra, 2013 to 2019. Altima's smaller, sadder sibling. If the Altima is Nissan's problem child, the Sentra is the forgotten stepchild with all the same issues but less space. Built on the same philosophy of cheap transportation with expensive problems, the Sentra comes equipped with that same cursed CVT transmission that's destroyed Nissan's reputation. The 1.8-liter four-cylinder makes 130 horsepower, which is barely adequate for a car weighing 3,000 pounds. Acceleration feels like you're asking politely instead of demanding, and highway merging becomes a life-threatening experience. That CVT whines and groans under even gentle acceleration and fails with the same regularity as its Altima cousin. Nissan knows about these problems and keeps installing the same transmissions year after year because fixing the problem costs more than settling lawsuits. The interior is a festival of the cheapest plastics Nissan could source, with a dashboard that feels hollow when you tap it and door panels that sound like Tupperware. The infotainment system is slow and frustrating, assuming it works at all, and the backup camera quality looks like security footage from 1995. Number 13, Chevrolet Spark, 2013 to 2022. The rolling soda can. The Chevy Spark is what happens when a car company decides to see exactly how little car they can sell and still call it a car. This thing makes a smart car look substantial. Powered by a 1.4-liter four-cylinder making 98 horsepower, the Spark has all the acceleration of a riding lawnmower and about the same engine note. This car weighs only 2,300 pounds, which sounds light until you realize that's because it's made from materials slightly thicker than aluminum foil. Crash test ratings are terrifying because physics doesn't care about your budget. Hit anything larger than a shopping cart and you're discovering what it's like to be inside a crushed beer can. The interior is exactly what you'd expect from the cheapest car Chevy sells: hard plastics, manual windows in base models, and seats with all the comfort of church pews. The driving experience is nervous and twitchy, with steering so light you're never quite sure if the wheels are connected. Highway driving is an adventure in terror, as every semi-truck that passes creates enough wind turbulence to blow you into the next lane. The engine screams at highway speeds, working desperately to maintain 70 miles per hour while getting worse fuel economy than cars twice its size. And resale value? These things depreciate like they're radioactive. Buy one new for $14,000. Sell it 3 years later for $4,000 if you find someone desperate enough. The Spark isn't transportation, it's automotive poverty with a warranty. Number 12, Mitsubishi Mirage, 2014 to present. The slowest car in America. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the car that Consumer Reports called one of the worst they've ever tested. The Mitsubishi Mirage makes the Chevy Spark look like a performance car. Under the hood sits a 1.2-liter, three-cylinder engine, making 78 horsepower, which is less power than some motorcycles. 0 to 60 takes somewhere around 14 seconds if you're going downhill with a tailwind. This thing is so slow that merging onto highways requires prayer and planning. The CVT transmission whines like it's begging for mercy, and the whole car feels like it's made from recycled plastic bottles and good intentions. The interior is aggressively terrible, with materials so cheap they make dollar store products look premium. The dashboard plastics are hard enough to crack walnuts, the seats offer zero support, and the overall ambiance is Soviet-era economy car. Handling is vague and unpredictable, with body roll in corners that makes you seasick. The ride quality is simultaneously harsh and floaty, managing to transmit every road imperfection while providing no actual control. But here's the real crime. Mitsubishi prices these things like they're doing you a favor. Then they depreciate so fast, you lose half the value before the first oil change. 3 years old, these things sell for $6,000, and that's still too much. The Mirage exists because Mitsubishi needed something cheap to sell to people with bad credit and worse judgment. If you bought one new, you made a terrible decision. If you bought one used, you inherited someone else's terrible decision. Number 11. Jeep Compass. 2007 to 2017, 2017 to present. The Jeep that isn't. The Jeep Compass has gone through 2 generations of disappointing people who thought they were buying into the Jeep lifestyle. The first generation was built on a Dodge Caliber platform, which should tell you everything about quality expectations. The second generation is better, but still manages to be worse than almost every competitor. These things come with weak engines that struggle to move the 3,500-pound body, with the base 2.4-liter making 180 horsepower and feeling every bit as underpowered as the numbers suggest. Electrical problems plague both generations, with everything from the infotainment system freezing to the electronic shifter getting confused about what gear it's in. The 9-speed automatic transmission is a jerky mess that can't decide which gear it wants, hunting and hesitating during normal driving. Reliability ratings are consistently among the worst in the compact SUV class, with Consumer Reports refusing to recommend them, and J.D. Power surveys showing owner satisfaction in the basement. The interior tries to look upscale, but fails with cheap plastics that scratch easily and controls that feel flimsy. 4-wheel drive is available, but don't mistake that for actual capability. Number 10. Dodge Dart, 2013 to 2016. The compact that couldn't. Dodge tried to compete in the compact car market and created the Dart, a car so problematic they killed it after just 4 years. Built on a Fiat platform because nothing says American reliability like Italian engineering, the Dart came with multiple engine choices and all of them had problems. The 1.4-liter turbo was a maintenance nightmare, the 2.0-liter was gutless, and the 2.4-liter was the best of bad options. But the real disaster was the dual-clutch automatic transmission that shuddered, jerked, and failed, just like Ford's PowerShift. Dodge issued multiple recalls and technical service bulletins trying to fix transmission problems they never actually fixed. These things would judder at stoplights, hesitate during acceleration, and sometimes refuse to engage gears at all. The manual transmission was better, but couldn't save the car from its other problems. Electronics failed constantly, with everything from the radio to the instrument cluster having issues. The dashboard would sometimes just go blank while driving, leaving you guessing your speed and whether you had fuel. The interior looked modern but was built cheap, with materials that felt hollow and switches that broke if you looked at them wrong. Build quality was so poor that rattles developed during the test drive. And reliability? These things spent more time at dealerships than driveways. Dodge discontinued the Dart in 2016, admitted defeat, and pretended it never happened. If you see one today, it's being driven by someone who made a terrible financial decision years ago and is still paying for it. Number 9. Chrysler 200, 2015 to 2017. Lipstick on a pig. The second-generation Chrysler 200 looked beautiful in pictures and terrible in practice. Chrysler redesigned it to compete with the Honda Accord and Toyota Camry and created something that looked the part but couldn't play it. The exterior styling was actually attractive, one of the few times Chrysler got the design right. But everything underneath that pretty sheet metal was vintage Chrysler disaster. The base 2.4-liter 4-cylinder made 184 horsepower, but felt weak because the car weighed 3,600 pounds. The optional 3.6-liter V6 was more powerful but came attached to Chrysler's infamous 9-speed automatic transmission. This transmission is legendary for all the wrong reasons, jerking between gears like it's having a seizure, hunting constantly for the right ratio, and failing completely well before 100,000 miles. Chrysler issued so many software updates trying to fix it that dealers were seeing the same cars monthly for reprogramming. The interior looked upscale with soft-touch materials and a rotary shifter that was modern and confusing. But quality was typical Chrysler, meaning terrible. Electronics failed, the Uconnect system froze and rebooted randomly, and the push-button start sometimes wouldn't recognize the key fob even when you were holding it. Chrysler killed the 200 after just 3 years because they couldn't compete with actual good midsize sedans. Number 8. Land Rover Range Rover. Out of warranty, 2006 to 2013. The Bankruptcy Special. Listen carefully. A Land Rover Range Rover is a magnificent vehicle when it's new and under warranty. It's comfortable, capable, luxurious, and impressive. But the moment that warranty expires, it transforms from a luxury SUV into a financial black hole that will consume your savings, retirement, and possibly your home. These things are engineered to spectacular complexity with air suspension systems that cost $5,000 to repair, electrical systems designed by people who hate mechanics, and engines that develop problems right around 80,000 miles. The air suspension will fail, not if but when, and you'll be looking at $2,000 per corner to fix. The electronics are legendary for failures, with everything from the navigation to the parking sensors deciding to quit at random intervals. The engine? Take your pick of problems. Oil leaks, timing chain issues, coolant leaks, and failures that cost more than the car's worth to repair. A major engine repair on a Range Rover can easily run $10,000 to $15,000, which is more than these things sell for after 5 years. You can buy a 2010 Range Rover for $12,000 today, and it seems like a steal until you realize the previous owner is selling it because they can't afford the $8,000 repair bill that's coming. These aren't cars, they're subscriptions to a very expensive lifestyle. Unless you have a spare $5,000 lying around for unexpected repairs, stay far away from used Range Rovers. Number 7. BMW 7 Series. Older than 10 years. The depreciation champion. The BMW 7 Series is the flagship sedan, the pinnacle of German luxury engineering, and an absolute nightmare to own once it gets some age on it. These cars sell for $80,000 to $120,000 new, loaded with every piece of technology BMW can cram inside. Fast forward 10 years and you can buy one for $10,000 to $15,000, which sounds like the deal of the century until you calculate ownership costs. That's when you realize why it's so cheap. These cars are complexity incarnated, with more electronic modules than the Space Shuttle, and all of them prone to failure. The iDrive system becomes outdated and glitchy. The air suspension fails at around 100,000 miles for $4,000 to repair, and the engine develops oil leaks that require removing the front of the car to fix. The V8 models are particularly troublesome, with timing chain guides that wear out and destroy engines if not caught early. That repair? $8,000 minimum. The turbochargers on turbo models fail and cost $3,000 each to replace, and there are 2 of them. Regular maintenance is expensive, even when nothing's wrong, with oil changes costing $200, brake jobs running $1,500, and tire replacements hitting $1,200. Add up the costs, and you're spending $3,000 to $5,000 per year just keeping these things running, assuming nothing major breaks. When something major does break, you're looking at repair bills that exceed the car's value. The previous owner sold it for $12,000 because they couldn't afford the repairs. Now it's your problem. Number 6. Mercedes-Benz S-Class High Mileage, 2007 to 2013. The ultimate money pit. The Mercedes S-Class is one of the finest automobiles ever built, the pinnacle of luxury, comfort, and technology. It's also one of the most expensive cars to maintain once it racks up miles. We're talking about cars with air suspension at all four corners, complex electronics controlling everything, and engines that require specialist knowledge to service properly. The air suspension, called Airmatic, will fail. Every single S-Class eventually has the air suspension fail, and when it does, you're looking at $2,500 to $4,000 per corner to replace. Some owners convert to coil springs to save money, which immediately makes your $100,000 luxury sedan ride like a truck. The ABC Active Body Control System, if equipped, is even worse. When it fails, repairs can run $10,000 to $15,000. The electronics are a nightmare of complexity, with modules for everything from the seat adjustments to the rear sunshades, and all of them can fail independently. A high-mileage S-Class will nickel and dime you to death with $500 repairs that pop up monthly. You can buy a 2010 S-Class with 120,000 miles for $15,000, and it seems like luxury for cheap. Number 5. Chevrolet Malibu, 2013 to 2019. The rental fleet reject. The Chevy Malibu should be a solid mid-size sedan competing with Accord and Camry. Instead, it's an inconsistent mess that rental companies bought in bulk and dumped as soon as possible. The problem with the Malibu is inconsistency. Some are fine, most have problems, and you won't know what you got until it's too late. The engines range from a weak 1.5-liter Turbo 4 making 160 horsepower to a 2.0-liter turbo with 250. But all of them have issues. The 1.5-liter is famous for stalling at stoplights due to a faulty fuel pump module, leading to recalls that didn't actually fix the problem. The transmissions, both 6-speed and 8-speed automatics, are hit or miss. Some shift fine, others shudder and hesitate from day one. GM issued technical service bulletins for transmission shudder, rough shifts, and delayed engagement, corporate speak for "we know it's broken." The interior is cheap plastic, fantastic with materials that scratch easily and electronics that glitch constantly. The infotainment system freezes, reboots randomly, and sometimes refuses to connect to phones despite working the day before. These cars were everywhere in rental fleets because they were cheap and expendable. Number 4. Hyundai Kona Early Models, 2018 to 2019. The fire risk. Hyundai has made massive quality improvements over the years, but the early Kona models proved they still had some learning to do. These cute little crossovers came with engines that had a nasty habit of catching fire, leading to massive recalls and a PR nightmare for Hyundai. The 2.0-liter four-cylinder and the 1.6-liter turbo both had issues, but the real problem was manufacturing defects that allowed metal debris in the engine. This debris would circulate, damage components, and eventually cause engine failure or fires. Hyundai issued recalls covering over 150,000 Konas for engine fire risks, telling owners to park outside away from structures until repairs could be made. That's not the kind of advice you want to hear about your daily driver. Beyond the fire risk, early Konas had transmission complaints, with the dual-clutch automatic being jerky and hesitant. The interior quality was okay for the price, but nothing special, and the ride quality was harsh over rough roads. The fuel economy was disappointing given the small size, and the cargo space was limited by the sloped roof design. But none of that matters when you're worried about your car spontaneously combusting in your garage. Hyundai extended warranties and offered engine replacements, but the damage to the Kona's reputation was done. These early models sell cheap now because nobody wants to inherit a potential fire hazard. If someone offers you a good deal on a 2018 to 2019 Kona, now you know why it's such a good deal. Number 3. Cadillac ATS, 2013 to 2019. The tiny luxury disappointment. Cadillac created the ATS to compete with the BMW 3 Series, and it failed spectacularly. The problems start with interior space. This thing is cramped even for a compact luxury sedan. The back seat is tiny, with legroom that makes passengers feel like they're in coach on a budget airline. The trunk is small and oddly shaped, limiting practicality. But space is just the beginning of the ATS problems. The CUE infotainment system is one of the worst ever installed in any car, laggy, frustrating, and prone to complete failure. The touchscreen would stop responding, the system would freeze and reboot, and sometimes it just died completely, requiring expensive replacement. Electronics in general are a nightmare, with everything from the electronic steering to the rear differential having issues. The 2.0-liter Turbo 4 is adequate, but nothing special, and the V6 is better but rare. The 8-speed automatic transmission has the typical GM problems: shuddering, harsh shifts, and eventual failure. But the real crime is depreciation. Buy an ATS new for $40,000, sell it 3 years later for $18,000. Number 2. Volkswagen Tiguan older models, 2009 to 2017. The German money drain. Volkswagen positioned the Tiguan as a premium compact SUV, German engineering for the masses. What buyers got was German repair costs without German reliability. These things are expensive to maintain when they're running right, and catastrophically expensive when they break. The 2.0-liter Turbo 4 is powerful but problematic, with timing chain tensioners that fail and destroy engines if not caught early. That repair runs $3,000 to $5,000 depending on how much damage occurred. The DSG dual-clutch transmission is smooth when it works, but requires expensive servicing every 40,000 miles and fails completely around 100,000. Replacement costs $5,000 to $7,000. Electrical problems are constant and varied, from window regulators that break requiring $400 repairs per window, to sunroofs that leak and won't close properly, to instrument clusters that go haywire. The check engine light is a permanent fixture, usually for emissions-related issues that are expensive to diagnose and fix. Water pumps fail regularly, coil packs need constant replacement, and oil leaks develop from seemingly every gasket and seal. Maintenance costs are German car expensive, with basic service running $300 to $400 and major service hitting $1,000. Number 1. Any used luxury car with no service records. The financial death sentence. We've finally arrived at the worst automotive decision you can possibly make. Buying any used luxury car, doesn't matter the brand, when it has no service records. This isn't just one car, it's a whole category of terrible decisions. When someone sells a luxury car and can't provide service records, they're telling you everything you need to know. They didn't maintain it, they ignored problems, and now those problems are yours. That $15,000 BMW with no records? It needs $8,000 in deferred maintenance? That $20,000 Mercedes with just needs minor work? The minor work is $12,000 worth of repairs the previous owner couldn't afford. That Range Rover selling for half its value? The other half is the repair bill waiting to happen. Luxury cars without service records are financial traps disguised as bargains. You're not buying a car, you're buying someone else's nightmare at a discount. The previous owner skipped oil changes, ignored warning lights, and drove it until something expensive broke, then sold it to you. Now you own a complex German, British, or American luxury vehicle with unknown maintenance history and certain problems. The repair costs will exceed what you paid for the car within the first year. There you have it, folks. 20 cars that prove just because you can buy something doesn't mean you should. From transmission time bombs to luxury money pits, these vehicles represent the absolute worst decisions on 4 wheels. If you learned something today, hit that subscribe button and check out our next video on your screen. Remember, a good car gets you where you're going without emptying your bank account. Thanks for watching, and drive smart out there.